All right, everybody wants the perfect wedding, but don't let your quest for perfection turn you into a BrideZilla. That's what we are talking about today. This is Robin Seville with the Utah Commission on Marriage and BrideAccess.com. We're so excited to have you here, but first, before we get to the BrideZilla stuff, can we talk about a recap? Because last time you were here, you were talking about men romancing their wives after marriage, the same way they did before.
We're kind of guilty. We romance quite a bit before we get married, and then we forget that after we get married. And we wonder what happened when our wives aren't showing so much interest in us anymore.
But after your appearance, you got stopped on the street.
A couple different people. I was actually in a meeting not long after that, that same day, and one of the gentlemen I was with said, you know, I saw the segment, and I just got to admit this. I got a piece of paper, tore it up in pieces, and wrote little love notes to my wife and hid them throughout the house. And then another gentleman told me he saw the segment with his wife, and she came up to him, grabbed his ears, and said, "Are you listening?" So I thought that was great.
Do you think that my husband should watch The Bachelorette with me more often? Would that help? And
you know, it's funny what you said, but his comment. And but Scott, I know your husband well.
Do know
Scott,
my husband.
It works. You got to do those things.
It does. It goes a long way, I swear, with women. All right, let's talk BrideZilla. I have a cute little niece getting married in 3 weeks, and she claims to be very laid back about her wedding.
Good for her. Let's keep her that way.
Yeah, she said it's well, and we have a couple weeks left.
You know, I love this definition of BrideZilla. I just pulled it off from Wikipedia. It says, a BrideZilla is a generic term used to describe a difficult, unpleasant, perfectionist bride who leaves aggravated family, friends, and bridal vendors in her wake. Now, you guys are never like that, right?
No, I don't think I was.
Let's hope all these lovely young women out here, when that day comes, are not a BrideZilla themselves. One of the ways to make sure not to be a BrideZilla is remove the word perfect from your wedding. Get rid of it. Nothing is perfect. You can have a perfectly wonderful wedding, but that's quite different than perfect. And also, while you're engulfed in wedding planning, take at least 1 day a week with your fiance and don't talk anything to do with the wedding. Don't talk about the dress, don't talk about the colors, don't talk about the location, nothing. Just get rid of that.
That's interesting.
At least 1 day a week. And a key thing to that is they're also nurturing the relationship at the same time by not talking about the wedding. Doesn't that sound interesting?
I love that you have advice too, to ask advice from either parents or grandparents or someone you respect, and say, what was your very favorite part of your wedding? What meant the most to you?
You talk to somebody who's been married for many years, grandparents is a perfect example, and say, what do you remember about your wedding? And it's most likely not going to be those details, the colors and the setting and what the weather was like that day. Most likely, Grandma will say, I remember how handsome your grandfather was. I remember how beautiful your grandma was.
My dad did something, and he asked Matthew before the wedding, but he said, I have really a problem saying I'm giving my daughter away. He said, can I say that we'll share her at the wedding? And Matthew said, absolutely. So we get up there, and my dad, who doesn't really ever cry, was crying and couldn't even get it out. So my husband said, let's just share her, and grabbed my dad and hugged him. And everybody started crying, and that was like a memorable moment at our wedding.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing that you're going to remember. Now, I know a lot of brides being BrideZillas because I've had 2 stepdaughters get married. It's all about the bride, and they're like, you're going to be the groom, and you just show up. But it should be our wedding. No,
exactly, Marty. It should be.
Yeah.
Remember, for the bride, it's the two of you. He should be involved as well. Now, maybe his idea of centerpieces and colors may be military, and that may scare you to death. But
camouflage.
Camouflage, but it's the two of you. And by focusing on the two of you, it really helps put things in perspective. Another great thing is a bride should stay involved with the things that she was doing before the engagement. Meaning, if she was into athletics, keep doing athletics. And it's also, I think, good advice to be involved in some kind of charity. It's pretty hard to spend a few hours at a charity and see people who don't have quite as much as you have, and then get upset because the bridesmaid shoes don't match the dress. It puts things into perspective.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Really great advice. And you, of course, can see more of this on Bride Access every single Sunday morning right here on ABC4. It's at 9:30. And you can also get more information at BrideAccess.com. You can download their planners and find all sorts of great vendors and everything that you need to plan the perfectly wonderful wedding.
This
Perfectly Wonderful, right there.
It reminds me of Bride Wars. It totally, this conversation reminds me of that movie. Because you dream about it as a little girl, you know, and then sometimes that gets out of hand. Your expectations.
I see Godzilla wearing a wedding dress walking downtown Salt Lake right now. We want to avoid that.
We sure do. Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, what you should be doing in your yard right this minute. We'll be right back.